Okay.
Yeah.
Tulip, thank you so much for chatting with us today. We're really happy to have you here.
Thank you.
We at Rainbow in My Jar make maternity and nursing clothes that are bright, vibrant. We try to use unusual patterns, bright colors, and unusual designs for women who are not scared to stand out and who are very bold and who don't want to blend in. So the women that inspire us are people who can change the world, we think, and who at the same time are great mothers or mothers to be, and they handle both the roles beautifully. And we think you're one of those ladies.
That's very kind. Thank you.
So we have some questions for you today,
Sure.
because we'd like to take this opportunity to understand you a little bit more and to understand what drives you, what inspires you, so that perhaps we can bring those inspirations to our designing process.
Sure.
So are you happy for me to?
Of course.
Great. So what should every woman try at least once in their lives, in their lifetimes?
Well, I suppose the logical answer is running for election. I think the buzz of the election campaign and actually standing to be a candidate, and it's hard work. Look, let's not deny it. There's lots of walking around, lots of knocking on doors, speaking to different kinds of people. But the thrill and adrenaline that goes through you when you're actually standing for election, do you know what? I would recommend it to everyone. It's a bit of stress, but it's also a lot of excitement and fun. But the other thing I think all women should try at least once is jumping out of a plane, because I jumped out of a plane about 6 years ago for charity, and it's amazing. So I would recommend that.
Wow, I don't think I can try the former. I missed the boat, but the latter I'm definitely going to try.
Yes, it was a fantastic experience. I would definitely recommend it. If you haven't done it, do it once in your life. I don't know if I'll go back a second time, but the first time jumping out of a plane is definitely worth it.
Thank you. I'll take your recommendation on that. Okay, next question. What brings you the greatest joy?
I would say actually the greatest joy is when you are, there's two things. Professionally, I would say when you've actually managed to achieve something that you've been working towards. So that could be anything from trying to get funding for a small community centre, or trying to rehouse a woman who's, a single mother with lots of children who's trying to get rehoused, and you actually win that case. That's a lot of joy when you realise that the fruits of your labour are not just happening and that you're actually trying to achieve something and accomplishing something. But another great joy, I suppose, is just being with family. And my job is very busy, but there are times in the weekends where the whole family will get together, and we don't really do much. I suppose we just eat and sit around and talk. It's not like we have a big activity planned, but those evenings are really fun.
I think it's such a wonderful thing to be in a job that helps you help people.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So it automatically enables you to do all these things that make you happy.
And I do speak to people, and I realise that, of course, some jobs are mundane, but a lot of people just say to me, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing with my life. And I think, well, actually in politics, you go in with a mission, and you go in because you're trying to do something about it. And I see myself as a public servant, and all our politicians do. We are public servants. We're indebted to the electorate for voting for us, and therefore we have to work for them.
Oh, we're proud to have you.
Thank you.
What is the best advice that you've been ever given?
I think it's probably from my aunt that I was given, where she said to me that one of the things you might realise is that whether you become a councillor, whether you become an MP, whether you become Prime Minister, don't put yourself above everyone else. You are the same as everyone. It's the lesson of not being arrogant. And she really drilled it into my head right from the start. I mean, she's a famous figure, she's a politician, but she said to me right from the start, it doesn't matter what kind of position you get into, don't look down on people. And it's really served me well. Like, you can meet anyone, someone who's, grassroots activist, hasn't really been elected, they're not any different from me. I mean, we're all trying to do the same thing. So it's this thing about not being arrogant and not thinking that you're above other people. That's probably the best advice, and it served me very well, and I always remember it.
And it's such a wonderful thing that you are from such a celebrated family. and still you hold those values and you carry those values through generations. I think it's wonderful.
You know, I grew up with very strict feminists. You know, my mother and aunt were very strict growing up. There was no room for any kind of arrogance, I can tell you that. You're always firmly kept in line.
Yeah. Okay, next question. What do you consider to be your greatest accomplishment?
Oh, it's difficult, isn't it? I suppose
so many.
winning. No, there's not that many. I think it's probably winning Hampstead and Kilburn, my constituency, at a very bad time for Labour.
Yeah.
So the election last year, 2015, was a very, very difficult time for the Labour Party, and I suppose I hoped I would win, but there was no guarantee of winning.
Yeah.
And it took months and months of campaigning. There was 2 years where we just campaigned day and night. And one of the things I did was, the week I became the candidate, the local Labour Party nominated me as a candidate, I actually got married in the same week. So I would say handling the nomination and handling my wedding in the same week was probably quite an accomplishment.
That is a big accomplishment.
Yeah.
And I remember that time, and there hadn't been a Labour MP for a long, long time before that. So
Yeah.
it was like, it was a big achievement.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a difficult time, but it was fun, and I look back and laugh. That's the main thing. As long as you can look back and laugh, and it doesn't worry you, the memories are good. I think that's what matters.
And compared to like other women who were worried about their wedding dresses.
Oh no, I was worried about my speech. I was more worried about my speech the following weekend about how I was going to win the nomination. I wasn't thinking about the wedding dress. I left it to my mother, so and that's what she did. You're absolutely right. You can't worry about the small things when there's such a big election coming up. So yeah,
It's wonderful. Okay. This one I probably know the answer to because I read it somewhere, but I'll ask you anyway. When did you know that you wanted to work in this profession? I know you joined the Labour Party when you were in your teens.
yeah, I was. Yeah.
So was it at that time you decided, or was it much later as you started working?
Well, I joined the party because my father really benefited from the National Health Service, and the NHS was born under the Labour Party. So that's why I joined the party, because I saw the value of public services very early on in my life. And my father had a stroke when I was only 10 years old. But when I actually became, I guess, immersed into politics is I worked at Amnesty International, I worked in human rights, I did a lot on the work of trafficking of women from India and the Roma community. And then I realised every time you wanted to make a difference, you had to lobby government.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, do I want to be in the position of being in government where I can actually make some of these decisions? So I stood for election. And you know, politics is one of those things where you win some, you lose some. The first election I stood for, which was actually not far from here, I lost my election, and you can't let that deter you from standing again. So you lose your first election, you stand again, and then you win one. And then I stood to be leader of the council. I lost that election. So if you're not prepared to lose, don't come into politics, because there will be some you'll win, some you lose. There's very few people who've won every election they've ever stood for. And then I won Hampstead and Kilburn, but I've lost elections before that. So let's just be clear that it's not always going to be victory after victory.
So can I ask you, how old were you when you were working with Amnesty and you decided?
So I was probably 22, I guess. It was after university, so 22, 23. And then I stood for my first election probably when I was 26. And that was in a council by-election. And I didn't win that one. I'm now 33.
So that's quite a young age to think about all these big things and foresee. I don't know if you actually foresaw or you just jumped into it, but that's quite young to make those decisions.
I think when you live the kind of life I've led, where I was born in London, but when I was quite young I lived in different parts of Asia, where politics really matters. I mean, in Bangladesh there's over a 90% turnout at elections, because elections can mean the difference between life and death for some people, and it depends on which party is in government. When you see people being so involved in politics, and people are not apathetic to politics in the countries that I lived in, you just become more and more immersed in it, and you realise that you want to make a difference. So it was that desire to make a difference, the desire to protect public services and our NHS and do something with my life It sounds very cheesy, but that's what it was. I think that was what it was.
I think it's a very inspiring story because you said it in context of politics, but I think it applies everywhere. You do something, you fail, you stand up, you do it again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there's no shame in losing in politics because you usually end up losing in the internal elections. You end up losing to someone from your own party, and then you lose, to a candidate, come back again, and hopefully you win the next time. I don't think there's any shame, and also I'm a middle child, so I have very thick skin, so I don't mind at all.
Okay. Next question is, can you name a person who had a tremendous impact on you as a leader and who's been a mentor to you and had a great impact on your life? I think you sort of answered that before.
Yeah, well, I would say it was my mother and my aunt. I mean, I grew up with two very strong feminists, and people say to me, oh, what were they like? And I said, the main thing they kept telling me and my brother actually, not just me, is that you can do it. They never said, oh no, you won't be able to manage that. My mother was so kind of blasé when I won my election because she said to me, oh, I knew you'd always do it. It was that kind of faith, I suppose, and the confidence they gave you.
Yeah.
There was never a question of, this is going to be too difficult for you,
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to achieve this. And I've never really heard my mother and my aunt say, what are we going to do now, in a panic? They never say that. There's always a solution for every problem. And they really do believe in opportunities. If there's an opportunity that comes up, you've got to seize it, you've got to work hard, and you've got to accomplish what you want. And I saw both of them working very hard in my life, and I think that makes a difference when you have role models who work very hard for what they're passionate about. Yeah.
Yeah, role models.
Exactly, it's very important. I was very lucky to have them.
Yeah, but it's also what you take from them.
Yeah.
And how you make those things your own.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think you've been a great example of just
Thank
carrying
you.
that forward in just another country. It's like amazing.
Thank you very much.
Okay, what are you doing to ensure you continue to grow and develop as a leader?
I suppose the main thing is to listen to people and not get too detached from where you started off. So, when you're in Parliament and you're in Westminster in that building, it's actually quite detached from the actual constituency. So you can be in a dark room, and there's a Westminster bubble, that's what they call it, where people just speak to themselves. They all look the same, they act the same, they have the same jargon that they use. You need to be very careful not to get swept up in the Westminster bubble, and lots of people do. But what keeps me grounded is to come back to the constituency, and our area has pockets of affluence and pockets of deprivation. Go to some of the estates in South Kilburn, which is also in my constituency. There are people who are struggling to make ends meet. People who are sending their children to school hungry because they just can't afford to feed them. Being in touch with people like that and trying to help them keeps you grounded, and it makes you grow as well because you realise that there's a lot still to be done.
And I want to say something here because I went to one of your surgeries. I just turned up, and there were a lot of people there, and most of them were, the ones who were struggling to make ends meet, and they had various issues. And I spoke to some of them, and they had so much faith in you, and they had so much of, how do I say, reverence for you. It was like just great. It was just amazing.
Well, the surgeries are very interesting because you really see the most vulnerable people there. And you're right, the one you came to, there was probably 40 to 50 people waiting. And it's frustrating because as a opposition backbencher, there's only so much you can achieve as an MP. Like, we're not in government, the Labour Party's not in government, I'm not a minister. There's only that much I can achieve. But it's the fact that they can come and see me face to face, tell me the problem, and then I can write a letter on their behalf. It sort of empowers them because a lot of these communities are very disenfranchised, and they don't feel they have a stake in society. And at least if they come and see me, then I can help them with some of the casework like you've mentioned. I don't always win the cases, that's the sad bit. I wish I could get everyone rehoused. I wish everyone could get their child into their first place of preference. It doesn't always happen, but at least they know that I'm trying on their behalf. And the constituency comes first. It comes before the Labour Party. The most important thing is the local people.
Yeah, and had I not met you in that setup, I wouldn't have really personally. I wouldn't have known that it is so, you're so accessible.
Yeah, I suppose
So I think that everybody feels and I didn't realize that till I came that day, that people feel that you're accessible, and that's the best part.
Well, that's what I've always wanted to be, because this is an area that I've lived in since I was a teenager. And my parents actually got married in the constituency in the 1970s, and my mother came here as a political asylum seeker, and they settled here, and she married my father here in Kilburn. And it's an area that I went to school, and I used to write for my local paper. My husband and I live here. It's home. And so when I walk down the road, the main thing is that I'm not representing an area that I don't know. It's an area that I know like the back of my hand, and that makes it a lot more special in Parliament.
Yeah. Okay, next question, and now we're coming to more interesting questions. Well, not that the others weren't. Who do you follow on Twitter?
Oh right, this is a good one. So I end up following quite a lot of the local organisations. So, for example, we're in the building of JW3 today. I will obviously follow them on Twitter to know what's going on. I'll follow the local schools. I'll follow the local community centres. But I do follow celebrities as well. So I do follow the Liverpool Football Club players, because I support Liverpool. And there was a big match on yesterday. We didn't win, I'm afraid. But I do follow a lot of the footballers, and I follow some of the singers. So I follow Bruce Springsteen because he is the man I listen to all the time. But I have to say, I don't think he tweets himself, but I do follow him as well. In terms of fashion people, if you like, or icons, I follow in style, so I do see what they come up with, and Net-a-Porter I do follow as well. I have to say I've had a few looks at the Mulberry Twitter as well, because I do have a weakness for handbags and shoes, so I have a few of those. I guess it's a mixed bag. I have local community organisations I follow, footballers I follow to keep up with the matches when I can't watch them, and fashion designers just to know what's going on, some singers I do follow as well. And then I follow the newspapers. I mean, I follow The Guardian, I follow the BBC, because nowadays you get all your news from Twitter, which is strange, but that's what happens. So I follow our local papers as well, the Ham and High, the Camden New Journal, I follow them as well.
You know, I wouldn't have thought that, given your image and all the photos that you see, one sees of you on the internet, I wouldn't have thought that you are that interested in fashion. I just got a glimpse of it from your shoes. But
of every colour. There's not that much time for fashion, I suppose, in politics. But, you know, I'm like a lot of other women, I suppose. If there's a sample sale for Mulberry, I will pop in between my lunch break and have a quick look. So, but handbags and shoes, I'll admit I have a weakness for them. So less for jewellery, less for makeup and things, less for clothes, but the handbags and shoes, my husband keeps complaining that we have to get rid of them before the baby because they're taking up too much space.
Well, they are actually something that transform your look.
Yeah,
so you can wear it with one garment and
I agree.
A handbag and a shoe, accessorize, and you're done.
I agree, absolutely. I agree with you. Yes. You should tell my husband that.
Well, I can't tell my husband that. So. Okay. After you became pregnant, how has your expression changed? Expression meaning your actual expression, how you express yourself, and also in terms of your dressing.
So I suppose in terms of being pregnant, your body changes. So whereas in politics, I suppose I wore quite a lot of fitted jackets and blazers and dresses that really fit and looked neat. It's harder to do that now. Like when you've got a big belly, it's quite hard to look neat and snug and proper. So a lot of the clothes I'm wearing now are a lot more flowing, if you like. I also find, because the skin is quite stretched and it's not as comfortable to wear clothes that were a bit starchy, the material used to be a bit starchy. Now I go for full 100% cotton because I feel like that's the only thing I can wear, especially if the voting hours in Parliament are very long, so I don't finish till 10 p.m. sometimes. I can't be in a dress that makes me feel uncomfortable. So it's a lot more flowy, kind of Greek dresses, if you like. I will wear a lot of the dresses which, if you want, you can tie up and they look quite smart, and then when you're in the office you can just loosen the belt and you feel a lot more comfortable. And one of the major transformations in my wardrobe has been that I was never seen without my heels because I'm very small, but now I feel like I have to wear flats because it's getting harder and harder to balance on my feet, and I'm 8 months pregnant, so I'm getting very close to it. And So that's been a major transformation to have to wear ballet pumps instead of wearing heels.
Another month to go, and then
Yes,
you're
and then
back
I
to
can
heels.
wear the heels again. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so what item in your closet do you wear the most? Before you became pregnant and now?
It's going to be a very common answer, I'm afraid. It's a little black dress. I end up wearing. I mean, nothing beats the fact that if you have a smart black dress that you can put on, then it just makes life so much easier. And
Yeah.
you have days when you wake up and just think, you know what, I don't know what to wear today, and the black dress is hanging there. So I have that, and I will wear it all the time. So yeah, that's probably it.
Okay, and what are your favorite colors?
I wear a lot of red, and that's not just because of the Labour Party.
I've seen a lot of
Yeah, I wear a lot of red.
photos, yeah.
And you know, I wear red because I've been told that not everyone can pull off red, but I know I can wear red because people always say to me, "Oh, you look really nice." So I wear an enormous amount of red.
Yeah.
I wear pink. I do wear pink, and I like the shade as well that I'm wearing at the moment. But I like bright colours. I wouldn't say that I always have to wear dark colours. I like bright colours, and I like the fact that you can experiment with different colours. I suppose I'm not that creative with my clothes, but colours are definitely something I enjoy. So I would say pink, reds, purples, and on occasion I've worn yellow. It takes a lot of courage to wear yellow, but when I'm feeling very confident, I do wear yellow.
Well, I think colors look very nice on your skin as well.
Well, thank you. I mean, I feel that you shouldn't always wear the same colours.
Yeah.
To be honest, I very rarely wear white. That's the one colour I don't really wear much.
Yeah.
That's
Actually,
definitely.
that's why I was like, before we came to interview you, or even before I approached you, I saw your pictures,
Oh right.
and I was like,
Yeah.
this is my girl.
Yeah, that's a colour. No, white. I just feel it's a bit boring, isn't it? So I don't end up wearing white really. So no.
Well, thank you so much,
Thank you.
Tulip, for being with us today, wearing our clothes, and really encouraging us. We're really, really happy to have you here.
Well, I think you're doing a fantastic job. I was really pleased when you approached me as a local constituent, but also as a woman who's really flourished with her business. And I'm so pleased to hear that you're getting lots of leads, and I will certainly be talking about your clothes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.